Upset season is here, and it's not even tournament time yet.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Kalia Butler. Joined alongside me is Sophia Jones. Plenty to discuss today because today was an exciting day. Sophia, as you know, it was the start of college basketball. In particular, we got to see women's college basketball start today. We've had so much WNBA talk, which has been so exciting, but there's nothing more exciting than college basketball, especially the beginning. So we're going to go over our first looks at South Carolina, some standout performances that we saw today. But first, there was a top 16 showdown between Duke and Baylor at France, and Baylor pulled off the upset against the top-seeded Duke, the above-seed Duke. And it was a pretty exciting game. We saw a lot of positives and negatives for both teams. Sophia, do you want to start and maybe just tell us what you liked from – we'll start with Baylor since they won. What did you like from Baylor, and what's something that Baylor can work on?
One of the things that I liked from Baylor was honestly Talia Scott. She really was the player that helped lift them in that second half to get themselves out of deficit and then take the lead and extend it. She is a very dynamic scorer. I was really impressed with her Baylor debut. The transfer from Auburn only played 3 games last season with them, so love that. And Baylor, their offense, just when their players decide that they want to get downhill, it is so difficult for anyone to stay in front of them, is especially even in this stifling Duke defense. So that was one thing that really stood out to me. But in order to get a little bit, or to just keep improving, I mean, it's the first game of the season, so there are going to be a lot of ebbs and flows up until March. I think for Diana Little Page Bugs, she started off the season with 10 points and 10 rebounds. So love the guard rebound double, but she was 3 of 12 field goals. So you'd like to see that efficiency improve a little bit, but especially when you're bringing new players together. It's the beginning of the season. Again, they're in Paris. You got time zones, everything. There's a lot of factors going on there, but that's someone that I think you can definitely expect to see an improvement in the efficiency from.
I agree with you. And also when it comes to Baylor, 58-52 win over Duke. Duke led a majority of this game. They had a very strong presence, but to your point, it was a Talia Scott who went on a 6-0 run by herself in the fourth quarter to put them ahead. But just the defense of Baylor, we talk about Duke defense. Baylor had a really strong defense. It was literally defense going against defense today, but held Duke to just 28% shooting from the floor for a majority of the game, which is incredibly impressive by any team. But I also want to see a little bit more of interior presence for Baylor moving forward, because I thought that their posts and their bigs were really strong. I thought some of their paint possessions were great. I thought they had a lot of great inside looks, just kind of continuing that. And even Talia Scott, to your point, such a dynamic player that she can drive and create opportunities for other players on her team because of how well she attacks the rim. And she has no fear going to the rim either. And we were talking about it earlier. She's a little bit of a smaller player compared to a Little Page Bugs, who's a 6'1" guard forward. She's 5'9". She's getting in there with the rest of them, and she is making her presence known. So really excited to see more of Talia Scott. But on the other side for Duke, they didn't have a performance that I anticipated them to have. Again, very early on. These are all things that can be fixed. You know, teams are still coming together. I think they maybe relied a little bit too much on Fournier to have some offensive production for them. And there wasn't a really well-balanced attack that we usually see them have. Again, led for a majority of the game, but it kind of started to fall apart towards the end.
And they had that lead because they were getting stops on defense going the other way. creating in space and just having that aspect of their game flow. But as soon as Baylor started scoring and it forced Duke to play half court offense more, it just became extremely stagnant. The execution wasn't really there. They were forced to start some of these plays about 15 seconds into the shot clock. So by the time the play is progressing, then you're forced to do a last second shot clock heave. And then their only kind of go to was get it to Fournier in the paint and let her create, or get her playing downhill in space, which I mean, it worked. She finished with 16 points, 10 rebounds. She went to the free throw line a good number of times. She was 6 of 11 from there. But you need other options at the end of the day. And Baylor, they really just shrunk the floor so much. They really stayed inside the paint because no one was connecting from the 3-point line. They were only 4 of 19. That's 21%. So you want to see those numbers go up. But for Duke, you do like the fact that the defense was there. I mean, they have such great length. I love the fact that on dead balls and some made baskets, they're picking up full court. I mean, first game of the season, no one wants to see that. Are you kidding me? Donovan is one of the best backcourt defenders, I think, that we've seen recently in women's college basketball. But so it's good that their defense is there, because defense is a lot of principle and effort based, and offense is something that maybe comes along a little over the season with maybe more chemistry. So you at least like that the defense is there, but the offense has to come along for this ACC favorite. They were predicted to win the ACC to just fulfill that prophecy, essentially.
And I agree with you. It's really good to see Duke have that defense that they are known for. They're one of the best scoring defenses in the ACC in particular, but within just women's basketball in general. However, they also got into a lot of foul trouble in that game. So it's defense, but they also have to maintain their discipline, because even in the first half, they had 5 players that had already had 2 fouls. So you already are working with a shorter bench when it comes to Duke. They can't go as deep this season. You have to make sure that you are not getting into any foul trouble. That's going to be probably their main focus, on top of trying to get some offensive production going. And even just utilizing Toby Fournier a little bit more. Obviously, she can have a defense collapse, but they didn't have great perimeter shooting today either. So just trying to continue a little bit on that. And again, so early in the season that these are things that teams are obviously working on. You can't just call it all now. But excited to see Duke continue, especially when they get into ACC play. As you mentioned, they're the favorites. They're a really exciting team to watch, but I can see now why Kara Lawson felt like they didn't necessarily have all the pieces together just yet.
So sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, they did have some injuries on the team. Only 7 players played tonight, so you talk about that lack of depth currently. That definitely affects, especially when you look into certain teams getting foul trouble. That affects defensive rotations and legs. When you get more tired, that's when you just start to slap and flail a little bit more. So that could have played a factor, but I think there are still bright spots for Duke. It just really comes down to that offense. They have to figure something out there. They need another option, more options other than Toby Fournier. But that defense is there. Kara Lawson, she does a great job. She has a great basketball mind. So I think on that, maybe, what is it, 10-hour flight or something on the way back from Paris to Duke, she's probably gonna be in watching film the entire time, I could guarantee.
Yeah, having to lose overseas and then travel all the way back cannot be exciting, but they still have a lot to look forward to this season. Coming up next, we are taking our first look at the number 2 picked team this season. Your ambition just met its match. With Robinhood, you play for the win, not just on game day. Every day, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All right, South Carolina played today. Everybody was very excited to see this team. You have the number one UConn playing tomorrow, but remember, South Carolina was in the finals too. Everybody expects a lot from South Carolina, and today was a really good look at them. They got the win over Grand Canyon 94-54. Tanaya Latson, the transfer from Florida State, led all scorers with 20 points. Tessa Johnson, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Raven Johnson, 11 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and there was 5 players in double figures. Sophia, what did you like about South Carolina today?
Just the balance between everyone, offensively and defensively. It felt like whenever someone was coming in, whether someone was getting a play drawn up for them, it was all just very balanced. It felt like there was no drop off anywhere. They operated at that well oiled machine that we see South Carolina do a lot. But I was interested to see that after a couple of years where South Carolina is just always has that front court player. I mean, Aaliyah Boston, Camila Cardoso, even with Chloe Kitts, who is probably going to be that this year. They're transitioning to be a little bit more guard dominant this season between players like those that you mentioned, Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson, and Tanaya Latson. They were kind of the big three that led South Carolina throughout this game. And I was really impressed with Raven Johnson, especially 11 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals. So she was flirting with that triple double, putting together a complete game. We know she's a two-way player. But what I love to see is that she was expanding her range this game. She was 3 of 5 from the 3-point line. If she can knock that down at a consistent rate, it's going to be a completely different game from South Carolina because you can't sag off of her anymore. It'll help space out the floor for players like a Tanaya Latson or Tessa Johnson to get downhill.
Yeah, you bring up a really great point. That we haven't seen this from South Carolina in some time, and I think it's going to be exciting to see this team adjust on the fly as well. Obviously, it was known at the beginning of the season that Chloe Kitts would no longer be on the team for the season because of her ACL tear. But now you see this transition of you said maybe a new big three for South Carolina between a Raven Johnson, a Tessa Johnson, and a Tanaya Latson. And what I loved most is seeing Tanaya Latson come in and prove herself to maintain the scoring abilities that she had at Florida State. Obviously, she led all NCAA scorers, but transferring from the ACC to the SEC, obviously, that's a completely different ball game. ACC, amazing contenders as well, but we all know how the SEC gets down. Those are a lot of Southern schools that they get down in the South, okay? So for her to come in and just immediately make an impact, especially at a school like South Carolina, I know they're very excited that they got her in the transfer portal, but excited to see the pace that South Carolina plays at this year too. They already play fast. If they have a smaller group that's running and very guard heavy, they are going to be the fastest they've been in some time.
Yeah, talk about some track stars on that roster. But when you bring up Tanai Latson and how impressive it is that she was able to do what she did with those 20 points, 4 assists today. It is one thing to go from being that primary option, ball dominant, every set is getting drawn up for you at one school, to then transferring to a place like South Carolina where you're definitely expected to play on both sides of the ball. You're not allowed to take any reps off on defense in Don Staley's system, but just the way that they share the wealth on South Carolina as well, and for her to still have produced, I think that backcourt duo between her and Raven Johnson, because we know Raven, she'll pass, she'll set you up, and I think that worked out really well for Tanaya Latson, and she scored really well within the flow of the offense. So I think that it's going to be a really good guard heavy team for South Carolina, but can't forget about Joyce Edwards as well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Joyce Edwards, 13 points, 5 rebounds. What did you like from her performance today?
She just did everything she does is at a very smooth, easy pace. She doesn't allow herself to really get sped up. She knows where she wants to score. I talk about with Raven Johnson hitting more threes, it forces you to step out. That allows a player like Joyce Edwards, who sometimes the opposing four-man, who's maybe a little bit slower, she's able to just drive right by. She has a very complete game. Love a big that can put it on the floor. Couple possessions where she initiated the offense as well. So she just put together a pretty complete game. Didn't see her too much in that first half, but she started to play more minutes throughout the whole game. So I think her minutes were just a little bit down, but not due to her play, I believe. She still really produced out there.
Yeah, another great point that you bring up. The quickness of Joyce Edwards is obviously at the advantage of, if they are going guard heavy this season as well, she's going to mesh right in. Nobody's going to be too quick for her. They're not going to leave her in the dust. She's a very fast player. She can get downhill. And again, as you mentioned, against maybe another slower 4-position player, she can footwork out of that. She's like, okay, I'll just go around you. She gets downhill very quickly. South Carolina, another team that we're just excited to see. Obviously, everybody anticipates a Dawn Staley team to be amazing year in and year out. So they'll be playing another game. They'll be back on Friday, and they're going to be going up against Bowling Green. What's going to be a priority for them on Friday for them to just keep the good vibes going, if you will?
Yeah, and I think by keeping good vibes going for them, it's just pride themselves on their defense and continue to take care of and share the ball. The way that there are so many players able to score defensively, they created so much, just wreaking havoc in their backcourt and front court. So pressure along the perimeter, rim protection, you love all of that. So just continue to emphasize those things. And for the game today, they went pretty deep as well. And so I think whenever you can give these players court time, that's extremely valuable. Even the two incoming freshmen, they saw a decent number of minutes. I got McKeer and Ayla McDowell. They had some good time there on the floor. So I think, again, those will be very valuable. But I think just for the theme for South Carolina's teams are always balance. So just continue to operate at that high level of execution on the offensive and defensive ends of the floor. It didn't really seem like there was too much today, honestly, that I can be like, oh, they need to work on that. No, they put together a pretty complete game today.
A balanced attack for the first day of women's college basketball. Over 300 Division I teams were playing today. We're going to get into some of the most noteworthy individual performances after this.
Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in and takes the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is all-in-one, remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time, that's gusto.com/lockedonnba.
As I mentioned, 300 Division One teams were playing today, and we're going to go over a couple of the top performances that we saw. Obviously, a highly anticipated one in Michaela Blakes, her sophomore season at Vanderbilt. Now, she was a stud last year. She came back, proved herself again. 27 points in their win against Cal. What did you like from her, and what did you like about the supporting cast that she has this season as well?
The way that Michaela Blakes scores is just not something you see that often in college basketball, where she can not only score within the flow of the offense, where if you run a set for her, she can come off and score really quickly. Doesn't need to be super ball dominant, but when the shot clock is running out and she has someone one on one, island, she's for sure going to get a bucket, create her own shot. She can score at three levels. That was on full display there. Got to the free throw line a good couple of times. She was 7 of 10 for the game. She was 9 of 27 at field goals, so put up a lot of shots, could have been a touch more efficient, but you like to see that confidence. That I think that's one thing that really describes Michaela Blake's game. It's just confidence. She doesn't play basketball or she doesn't think basketball. She hoops. If you get my drift, she doesn't think basketball. She just hoops, and I think that's exactly what we saw today, but her supporting staff definitely feels stronger this year. I'm liking their new freshman point guard, Aubrey Galvin. She has some great vision, a little feisty. You can see it come out on the court at certain times. The front court, they do their job in terms of rebounding and finishing on those post ups. They have those select shooters to space the floor. So this Vanderbilt team feels, like I said, a little bit more complete to just have those really solid players around Michaela Blakes because she's going to be their offense at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Michaela Blakes today also showed that she could take over games even when she is facing a tough defensive scheme. And Cal showed her a pretty good defensive scheme today. And it's only going to get harder because she plays in the SEC. So again, she's getting started and she's already having 27-point outings. She's setting herself up for success to go up against larger SEC defenders and also quicker ones. Obviously, we're talking about South Carolina, a team that she's going to have to face at some point as well. But she also just has an aggressiveness to her, as you mentioned, an ability to draw fouls, had 10 free throw attempts today. So she can hurt you at all three levels, essentially. But to your point, Audrey Galvin showed really good court vision, which is what is necessary to help out Michaela Blakes. Obviously, Michaela Blakes is going to pull the trigger. Like, she wants to go score. As you said, she's a hooper for real. She's out there balling. Like, she is not playing with any of you. So you need somebody else on the team to kind of maybe take that step back and be like, okay, we know that she can go get a bucket if we need to, but if that option isn't there right now, what else is available to us? And I think that created a little bit of a steadier offensive rhythm for them. And yeah, I think there's going to be some more perimeter threats as well this season for Vanderbilt. So they're honestly really exciting to see. Like, I think this is going to be a really well-rounded team, even more than they were last season.
Definitely. And even on the defensive end, it felt like they had really great length. They were doing a good job contesting every one of Cal's looks. When they were down in the rebounding battle early in the game, they got themselves out of that hole and ended up winning that aspect of the game. So you love to see that fight as well.
Yeah, another standout performance comes from Oklahoma, another team that we spoke really highly about as well. Reagan Beers, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 13 for 17 from the field. Aaliyah Chavez, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. They showed a really dynamic tandem within the paint. How scary can that be for Oklahoma?
Looking at especially Reagan Beers, 29 points, 10 rebounds, that is the epitome of paint dominance. Even the high level of efficiency that she did it at with those 13 of 17 field goals, she just gets great positioning and has a quick move to just put it right up at the rim. She can space the floor a little bit and hit the three. So she has that aspect of the game on lock. But Aaliyah Chavez, a very highly anticipated freshman. We were all excited to see her debut. And like you said, those 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. So she put together a pretty complete game. She's one of another of those players that just goes out there and hoops. She knows her spot she wants to get to. She'll throw a little sauce on it as well. But she is not one afraid and not one to shy away from the moment, and none of those freshman nerves or pressure really seemed like it affected her today.
And that's huge too, because it's the first day of college basketball. You are a freshman on the team and you are essentially running the offense to some degree. So her ability to get in there, facilitate, but also create opportunities for herself between Chavez and Beers, it's going to be like a 1-2 punch. They can hurt you from the perimeter, but then you can also be on the inside with Beers, and she's just going to completely dominate you. So, Oklahoma, another really exciting team and standout performances today. Iowa State also played today. They played St. Thomas of Minnesota. Audie Crooks, I love Audie Crooks. She had 20 points, 7-11 from the field, and she did that in 25 minutes today. We know she is a player that can play the entirety of the game, and they will play her the entirety of the game. So to get 20 points in 25 minutes, she was efficient.
Definitely. And they were playing, like you said, St. Thomas of Minnesota obliterated them. So she just did quick work. She was like, you know what? Let me get my buckets. Let me get into this, my little rhythm, this first game of the season, and then just chill. And I love that. So, like we said, 20 points in 25 minutes, extremely impressive. She did her work down low.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that game was kind of brutal. 85-36. Like, that has to be a little bit demoralizing to start the season. Iowa State, we know, is a fantastic program. So for St. Thomas to come in, try to put up a fight, but 36 points in the game, that is a little bit hurtful to start your season. But I know they will make a comeback from it, especially if you have to go up against Iowa State to start. Hopefully, it's a little bit of a smooth sailing from there. But Audie Crooks, I just really like her. Like, she was 64% from shooting today. Obviously, she set the tone really early with her post presence. And I think what I love most about her is that she is one of those more traditional post players, and it works really well for her. But we can continue to see her just develop her game in different ways each season. But I like that she's a little bit more traditional. And maybe it's because I have a 6'11 dad who is a post player, and I think I'm just used to hearing him talk about all these things. And when even though I'm only 5'9", I was a post in high school. So everything that I see that has anything to do with like significant, just traditional back to the basket post moves, I'm just like, yes, she is eating it up. You go, girl. I'm excited to see Audie Crooks continue throughout the season. She has been a bright spot for Iowa State so much. And I think if she can continue to develop what she's doing and adding some of, her teammates into it, they're going to be a really big threat too.
Definitely. And I think you talk about her kind of having that inside game on lock. Of You also have Jada Williams, who just transferred in from Arizona, that I'm sure will find her rhythm on the team as well, and that could potentially, I mean, they're already ranked, but they could potentially be another one of those teams to make a run. But it's funny because you talk about your dad being a post, because my father was a point guard in college, so, and I was a point guard, so all of his advice was very like, oh, like I used to do all of this back in my day when I played. I'm like, okay, dad. But speaking of just one more guard, I gotta highlight a little bit. Yomi McMiller, she's transferred from Rutgers. Didn't see much playing time or time on the court, just with a little bit of drama. She transferred to Penn State. She finished with 27 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals on 60% shooting today. She's going to be one to watch, especially at a bigger program like Penn State. They could potentially do some damage in their conference as well.
Well, Sophia, it was an exciting day of women's basketball. And can you believe that this is just the beginning of it all? We get to continue talking about this for the next several months. But thank you so much for joining us. We will be back tomorrow because we're going to have our first look at UConn in the post-Paige Beckers era. Make sure you tune in with us. And thank you